Hey everyone, it's Miss Cochran. I just wanted to hop in and give you guys a quick overview and reminder on how we can use our sources in writing. You should have already seen some of this through your inquisitive practice you've been doing, but I wanted to refresh your mind as well. When we're using sources, one of the first ways we can use them is through quotations. So this is when we cannot change the original words or phrases because they're already perfectly said or the way it's structured is really important. So if I want to say exactly what they're saying, I'm going to copy it in, I'm going to surround it with quotation marks, and then at the end I'm going to have my citation. If I want to skip some words because I don't need the full sentence, then I can use the ellipses, which is what these three dots are. It's called an ellipses. And that just shows I omitted some words and I skipped some things. So I have a dream. Even the state of Mississippi will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. By using this ellipses, I've shown I've left some things out. If I want to edit a word, I use the bracket. So not a parentheses, but the actual bracket. So king, and then I had bracket, had a dream. And instead of saying, because in the speech it says, I have a dream. So now I need to change it to had, because that's the proper verb for this sentence. And that's how I could change it. You can also use that when you are needing to change something from lowercase to uppercase or uppercase to lowercase, those kind of things. If you're doing a short quotation, that means it's less than 4 lines of prose, so anything that's not poetry, or it's 3 lines of poetry or less. Okay, then we do it normal, just at part of the sentence as it goes. I have my MLA citation in the actual sentence before the period. And so, yes, I realize I accidentally put my period early, so I would actually need to move it to after king, but it would just look like this. There's no special formatting. However, you do have to use a long quotation or a block quote in your essay. And so that's when you have 4 lines or more of the prose or more than 3 lines of poetry. So if in your essay, your quote you're copying takes up more than 4 lines, then you need to put it in a block quote. The citation will go outside of the sentence and the formatting itself looks a little bit different, as you can see here. So this is my paragraph. Martin Luther King Jr. is famous for many things, one of which is his I Have a Dream speech given in 1963. In his speech, King challenges the status quo and answers the question of when will he be satisfied. So then we can see here, I've indented everything over by using the tab button. So it's equal with my indent up top, and there's no quotation marks. That's because when I indent a quote like this, it doesn't need quotation marks. MLA says we obviously know this is what it is. And then my citation goes after the period. This is the only time I want to see your citation after the period. And then when I continue my paragraph, you'll notice it's still full left aligned because it's part of the same paragraph, and I analyze my quote. I'm never going to drop a block quote like this and then move on to the next paragraph. I always need to follow it up with a couple of sentences analyzing what I've said. If you want to reference specifically what an author has said without using their exact words, that's called paraphrasing. So you're discussing the main points, you're using key details from them, but you're putting it into your own words and phrasing. I still have to provide a citation for this, even though it's not a direct quote. So at the end of the sentence, or say I have 2 or 3 sentences of paraphrasing, the citation will go at the end of that last sentence. However, if you mix like a short phrase of a direct quote in, I have to give that citation in that sentence as well. And this is where a lot of students get in trouble with plagiarism. Changing 1 or 2 words is not the same thing as a paraphrase. It should be completely rewritten in your own way, in your own words, own sentence structure. Nothing should match the original. So these are some examples I want to show you guys to give you an idea of what some good paraphrasing or bad paraphrasing would be. So this is the original document. And if you go into Blackboard, you have this PowerPoint, so you can spend more time on it. So we can have the original here. And then on this page, anything that's highlighted shows that they changed a little bit of it, but not a lot. So I have in 1938, in a series of now classic experiments, exposure to synthetic dyes derived from colon belonging to a class of chemicals called aromatic amines was shown to cause bladder cancer in dogs. Okay, so I moved now classics experiments to the beginning. I moved the dog exposure to the middle. But this is still using their exact words. I just shifted it around. That's still plagiarism. If you want to use the words that badly, use a direct quote. Another example, this one just shows you the sentence structure. So there's nothing highlighted. It just shows where they might have changed words, but the layout is the same. However, this last one is the one that I see all of the issues with. This is called a patch write. So this is where earlier I was saying if you change one or two words, it's still plagiarism. This is what I mean. So anything yellow is the exact phrasing from the original source, and the blue just shows where I've changed one or two words to make it sound like different. Unfortunately, for you, if that's what you've been doing, that doesn't count. You have to completely change it. So just be careful with your paraphrasing. And remember to give credit where credit is due. Make sure that you're also providing something called a signal phrase. So when you're introducing a source for the first time, you have to do this. Now, you can always do it a little bit later. So you're using multiple sources, and after a paragraph or two, you're coming back to one of your first sources. You can always reintroduce it, but it helps establish the credibility of your source. So this is talking about their institutional affiliation, their job or position, their specialty, who they write for, just something that shows they're a trusted source in this topic. So I'm with Martin Luther King Jr. I could say Martin Luther King Jr., comma, a civil rights leader who directly experienced racism daily, end comma, said blah, 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 blah. By showing that he is civil rights leader, he's experienced racism, I'm giving the authority to the speaker and showing why I can trust this author. You could say, according to Dr. Jane Smith, a pediatric doctor for Duke University, blah, 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 blah. Okay. That's the kind of idea of signal phrases. You're just showing us why should we believe this source. And one last note is that when you're writing about what an author says, MLA does say that you need to use present tense verbs. So that's why we would say argues, claims, supports, anything like that is present tense to make it sound better. If you still have questions about how to use your sources in your writing, just let me know.